If there were ever an award for the brightest smile and warmest personality in Hollywood, Doris Day would have undoubtedly taken home the prize. With her radiant charm and wholesome girl-next-door image, the beloved American actress won the hearts of fans and colleagues alike. But in today's video, we'll go beyond the surface to uncover the untold truth about Doris Day, revealing the struggles and pains she endured behind the scenes, far from the cheerful persona the world adored. So stay tuned. Long before she rose to Hollywood stardom, Doris Day's life began with modest roots. Like many others chasing the American dream, her journey started in the most ordinary of places. Born on April 3, 1922, Doris Day entered the world as Doris Marianne Kappelhoff. She was the youngest child of Alma Sophia and William Joseph Kappelhoff, a family of German-American descent living in Cincinnati, Ohio. Her father worked as a choir master and music teacher, while her mother took care of the home. The name Doris was chosen in honor of Doris Kenyon, a popular film and television actress of that era. Doris had older siblings, though tragedy struck early. Her eldest brother Richard passed away before she was born, leaving Paul as her only living sibling. While her father provided her musical genes, it was her mother who nurtured her emotionally, as her father remained emotionally distant and ultimately unfaithful. The discovery of his affair led to her parents' divorce when Doris was just 10 years old in 1932. From a young age, Doris developed a love for dancing. Although her first experience on the dance floor filled her with nerves, she quickly overcame her fears and embraced the stage with confidence. Her growing passion led her to join a local dance team, despite going against her family's conservative Catholic beliefs. It seemed she was destined for a life as a professional dancer, until fate intervened. The night before her family was set to move to Los Angeles, a tragic accident occurred. Doris and her friends were hit by a freight train, and her right leg was shattered. She was just 15 at the time. In her autobiography, Doris Day, her own story, she recalled the aftermath, dragging herself away from the wreckage before realizing the severity of her injuries. Only then did she notice the jagged bones of her leg protruding through the skin, moments before losing consciousness. Just like that, her dream of becoming a dancer was shattered. But while recovering in the hospital for months, Doris discovered a new love: singing. She began to sing along to the radio, falling in love with the sounds of Duke Ellington, Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, and Tommy Dorsey. Of all the voices she heard, Ella Fitzgerald stood out the most. There was something magical about her tone, Doris later said. I would sing along, trying to mimic her phrasing, the effortless, clean way she delivered each lyric. Recognizing her daughter's potential, Doris's mother arranged for singing lessons with teacher Grace Rain. By the third lesson, Rain saw remarkable promise in the young girl and agreed to give her 3 sessions a week for the price of 1. Within just 8 months, Doris booked her first job as a professional singer, performing on WLW Radio's Carlin's Carnival program and singing regularly at a local restaurant called Charlie Yee's Shanghai Inn. It was during one of her radio performances that her big break came. American jazz musician and bandleader Barney Rapp happened to hear her sing. He was on the hunt for a female vocalist and invited her to audition. Despite having listened to more than 200 hopefuls, Rapp chose Doris. At the time, she was still going by her birth name, Doris Kappelhoff. But in 1939, Rapp suggested a change. Her surname was too long for Marquise. That's when Doris Kappelhoff became Doris Day. Barney Rapp was immediately captivated by Doris Day's performance of Day After Day. That moment became a turning point in her career, eventually leading her to work with notable bandleaders such as Bob Crosby, Jimmy James, and Les Brown. With Les Brown's band, Doris toured for nearly 2 years. At the same time, she became a regular voice on Bob Hope's weekly radio show. During this period, she recorded the timeless hit Sentimental Journey, a track that resonated so strongly with World War II servicemen that it essentially became their anthem. Her leap into acting was thanks in large part to songwriters Jule Stein and Sammy Cahn, who were impressed with her rendition of Embraceable You. They recommended her for a part in the musical film Romance on the High Seas. Even though she still had to audition like anyone else, director Michael Curtis was so taken by her presence that he cast her for the lead role. When Doris learned she got the part, she confessed to Curtis that she had no prior acting experience. Yet Curtis wasn't deterred. He believed her natural charm and wholesome look, freckles and all, made her perfect for the role. He saw in her the ideal image of the all-American girl. Soon, Day's filmography began to grow. She starred in titles like My Dream Is Yours, 1949, as well as musical favorites like On Moonlight Bay and By the Light of the Silvery Moon. Her fourth collaboration with Curtis, I'll See You in My Dreams, became her most successful project under Warner Brothers. While she was busy acting, her music continued to soar. Several songs from her films climbed into the top 10, including her 1953 duet with Frank Sinatra, Young at Heart. Her true cinematic breakthrough came in 1955 when she portrayed singer Ruth Etting in the musical drama Love Me or Leave Me, opposite James Cagney. Critics praised her performance, and Cagney himself lauded her ability to deliver simple truths with clarity and honesty. But Doris Day wasn't limited to romantic musicals. In 1956, she showed a more dramatic side in Alfred Hitchcock's mystery thriller, The Man Who Knew Too Much, proving her versatility as a serious actress. Her career hit its peak during the late 1950s and early 1960s with a string of romantic comedies. The most celebrated among them was Pillow Talk, 1959, co-starring Rock Hudson and Tony Randall. The film earned Doris her one and only Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. The trio reunited for Lover Come Back and Send Me No Flowers, solidifying their on-screen chemistry. In the early 60s, Doris Day became Hollywood royalty. She was ranked the top box office female star and became only the second woman, after Shirley Temple, to maintain a #1 ranking for consecutive years. She continued to shine in hits like Please Don't Eat the Daisies, That Touch of Mink, The Thrill of It All, and Move Over, Darling. Her final commercially successful film was Do Not Disturb in 1965. But as the cultural tide shifted during the sexual revolution, her girl-next-door image began to feel out of step with the times. By the 1970s, Doris Day had quietly stepped away from the public eye. In an interview with People magazine, she explained why. Hollywood had changed, and it no longer felt like the town she once knew and loved. While she remained open to new opportunities, she admitted that fame no longer appealed to her. Like many stars of her era, Day found herself confined by the wholesome persona that made her famous. Frequently cast in roles as the innocent, modest heroine, she was often labeled the world's oldest virgin, a title she candidly addressed in her memoir. In a PBS interview, she revealed, "I have the unfortunate reputation of being Miss Goody Two-Shoes, America's virgin, and all that, but I firmly believe people shouldn't marry until they've lived together." Her honesty shocked many who had only seen her screen persona. Day also struggled privately with self-image issues. Despite being widely regarded as beautiful, she never believed she was attractive. Director Norman Jewison, who worked with her on The Thrill of It All and Send Me No Flowers, expressed his surprise at her insecurity, saying, "Everyone who ever worked with her thought she was beautiful. Millions of fans adored her, yet Doris never saw it." Her co-star James Garner shared that sentiment. He even claimed he preferred working with Doris over screen legend Elizabeth Taylor, describing her as a sexy woman who didn't even realize how sexy she truly was. Something that, in his eyes, only made her more appealing. Despite her cheerful and sunny image on screen, Doris Day's love life was far from perfect. She was married 4 times, and her first marriage to trombonist Al Jordan began when she was only 17 years old. At the time, Day was struggling with the demands of touring and performing with big bands. Unfortunately, her marriage was far from the fairy tale she had hoped for. It quickly became clear that the man she had fallen for was not the same man she married. After just 2 days, Day discovered Jordan's violent side when he struck her after seeing her receive a wedding gift from one of his bandmates. The abuse continued for months. Though she wanted to leave, Day was pregnant with her son Terry, which kept her trapped in the relationship. She endured physical violence, including a terrifying incident when Jordan pressed a gun against her pregnant belly. Terry Paul Jordan was born during this difficult time, but later adopted the surname of Martin Melcher, Doris's third husband. Fortunately, Day found the strength to expel Jordan from their Cincinnati home in 1943. Her second marriage was to saxophonist George William Weidler, who introduced her to Christian Science. Their union lasted from March 30th, 1946 to May 31st, 1949. Despite the short marriage, Day continued practicing Christian Science after their divorce. During this period, she also dated Ronald Reagan, her co-star in the 1952 film The Winning Team. In her memoir, she described Reagan as a talented dancer and outgoing personality who enjoyed socializing. She was particularly impressed by his eloquence, which made her think he was well-suited for speaking engagements. However, their romance eventually fizzled out. Doris Day's third husband was American film producer Martin Melcher, whom she married on April 3, 1951. He took her son Terry under his wing, and Terry adopted Melcher's surname. Day first met Melcher while escaping from her first abusive husband, and she believed she had finally found her happy ending with him. Her world, however, was shattered after Melcher's death when she discovered that he had mismanaged her finances, leaving her deeply in debt. Even more surprising was that Melcher had signed her up for the Doris Day Show without her knowledge. In a 1995 interview with OK Magazine, Day recalled how overwhelmed she felt after Melcher's passing and facing the prospect of a television career. She said, "I was really not very well when Marty passed away, and the thought of going into TV was overpowering." It was her son Terry who helped her see the opportunity's potential, explaining that she was also signed up for several TV specials, none of which she had agreed to. Despite her hesitation, the Doris Day Show went on to enjoy a successful 5-year run from 1968 to 1973. On the financial front, Doris Day eventually won a $22 million judgment in a lawsuit against Melcher's former business partner, Jerome Rosenthal, who was found guilty of fraud and malpractice. Day's fourth and final marriage was to Barry Comden in 1976. He was the maitre d' at one of her favorite restaurants, and he cleverly won her affection by bringing bags of meat scraps and bones for her beloved pets. Ironically, Day's deep love for animals became a source of tension in their marriage. As Comden later complained, she cared more about her animals than him. Despite her brilliance and charm, Doris Day's relationships rarely worked out as hoped. Surprisingly, Doris Day is also linked to a notorious figure, something that many may not expect. So stay tuned to learn more. As mentioned earlier, Doris Day had only one child from her marriage to Al Jordan. Terry, who later took Melcher's last name, grew up to become a successful producer. In his career, he crossed paths with the infamous American musician and cult leader Charles Manson. At one point, Terry almost signed Manson to a record deal. However, in 1969, Manson committed the horrific Tate murders at Benedict Canyon, the very house where Terry and his girlfriend, Candice Bergen, had once lived. When Doris Day heard the news on the radio that Sharon Tate and others had been brutally killed at Benedict Canyon, it was a shocking moment. It was later revealed that Manson held a grudge against Terry and deliberately targeted his former home. Because of the threat, Doris and Terry lived under 24-hour protection for a period. Terry eventually took over managing Doris Day's career and wrote in her memoir that he fulfilled the parental role about 90% of the time. Sadly, Terry passed away in 2004 after a long battle with melanoma. Doris Day shared with Reuters in 2011 how deeply she missed him, referring to him as her buddy. She said her song My Buddy was written for him and remained a special dedication. In her later years, Doris Day became widely known for her passionate animal welfare activism, dedicating considerable effort to protecting and caring for animals. Her love for animals dates back to the 1950s, when she was filming The Man Who Knew Too Much. During production, she witnessed mistreatment of animals at the marketplace and refused to continue working unless proper care and feeding stations were provided. Almost 2 decades later, in 1971, she co-founded Actors and Others for Animals, alongside Hollywood stars like Angie Dickinson, Mary Tyler Moore, and Jane Meadows. The group took a strong stand against the use of fur. In 1978, Doris Day founded the Doris Day Pet Foundation, an independent nonprofit devoted to animal welfare causes. Today, it is known as the Doris Day Animal Foundation, DDAF, and works in tandem with another organization she helped establish, the Doris Day Animal League, DDAL, founded in 1987. Beyond animals, Doris Day also worked to raise awareness and funds for HIV/AIDS research. Unlike many Hollywood stars who acted well into old age, Doris Day chose to retire in her early 50s. She devoted herself to animal activism and maintaining close family ties. After retirement, she lived peacefully in Carmel by the Sea, California, surrounded by her pets and caring for rescued stray animals. On May 13, 2019, Doris Day passed away peacefully at her California home due to pneumonia, aged 97. The Doris Day Animal Foundation announced her death and honored her wishes for no funeral service or grave marker.